Tonight, the government releases its mid-year finance report and reveals the deficit has nearly tripled. As the Canada Post strike drags on and employees are laid off, we look at the impact on local businesses.
I'm really hoping that this strike ends soon.
Concern for people without reliable housing as temperatures plunge across the province.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, November the 28th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. The mid-year financial forecast is out, and it is not good news for the newly re-elected Saskatchewan Party. Alexander Kwan explains.
This isn't out of the realm of ordinary.
That's the message from Saskatchewan Finance Minister Jim Ryder as he released the mid-year financial update Thursday afternoon. When the budget was released in the spring, the province's spending was projected to exceed revenue by $273 million, a deficit. Now, according to Ryder, that number has almost tripled to $744 million. The source of the deficit? A cornerstone of Saskatchewan's economy, agriculture. Crop insurance payouts grew 25% from the budget, costing an extra $385 million. Warm, dry weather in July is to blame for most of it. Ryder doesn't seem worried.
The situation with crop insurance, again, it's frankly as unpredictable as the weather because that's what drives it.
The NDP's finance critic says that's not good enough.
Here we are 3 weeks out from an election campaign, and Jim Ryder and Scott Moe say, oops, you know, we missed this thing by $500 million, almost $500 million off in just 3 weeks out from an election. It's almost unbelievable.
I think the facts speak for themselves. The largest percentage factor here is crop insurance. Well, at budget time, you have no way of predicting what the weather's going to be through the crop growing year. So that's the bulk of the answer right there.
It's not the first time crop insurance payouts have come in well over initial projections. It's happened the last couple years. The province says it uses a 10-year rolling average to calculate the crop insurance budget. So the high payouts will be factored in future financial plans.
I think it'll become sort of self-adjusting just by the nature of how they do it on the 10-year average. Also adding to the province's red ink, higher than expected costs for fighting wildfires, and a new contract between the government and its General Employees Union, SGEU. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The Saskatchewan government is again refusing to back the opposition's call for a tax cut. NDP finance critic Trent Wotherspoon introduced an emergency motion to have the PST removed on certain grocery items. That includes ready-to-eat meals and things in packages of fewer than 6. Wotherspoon says people rely on these meals and snacks. The NDP estimates removing the PST on these items would cost the government $25 million a year.
The point is this: families are stressed. The vast majority of Saskatchewan people are facing very serious pressures, and it's well past time that this government recognize that reality and then act to extend cost of living relief.
The finance minister says an affordability bill will be introduced next week. It is set to include changes like the largest personal income tax reduction in Saskatchewan since 2008, plus a 25% increase to the disability and caregiver tax credits. The Saskatoon Fire Marshal had a tense meeting with people behind a homeless encampment this afternoon. Officials say an open fire inside the camp is dangerous. Helena Mulhollick was given access to that meeting and brings us the latest.
I'm here at a makeshift shelter for homeless people on 20th Street in Saskatoon. The city says it has to come down. But where these people go and how that happens has become an intense dispute.
Until all of this is solved, that fire is not going to go out.
The camp leader is David Fineday, an Indigenous advocate for people who are homeless. Fineday was granted a temporary permit by the city to smudge in the area, but the city says it was only a temporary measure in response to the weather, and that it was only to smudge outside, and that an open fire inside is a fire hazard. Finday's permit expired Tuesday night, and the city said the encampment had to come down.
This is our inherent right.
This property is owned by Imperial Oil, but it's leased by Station 20, a community organization that helps vulnerable people. Police visited the camp Wednesday night, but did not tear it down.
They're trying to make us take the fire that is code and everything. We even have a fire extinguisher here. They want us to move the fire outside. That defeats the whole purpose of this, to keep people warm, safe, fed, and they can come in here and sleep. So we don't have to find them in a snowbank dead.
The fire department visited Fine-Day Thursday morning. That led to a meeting at Station 20 between the fire marshal and Fine-Day and his supporters. I was allowed to be there and can tell you it was an intense debate.
Because you're killing us with stalling and you're killing us by policy.
The fire department says it's willing to work with Fine-Day. They want him to relocate to somewhere he can have a fire in a safe way.
I don't disagree with everything that's being said, but there is a little bit of a safety concern here. It's more than just a little bit.
But Fine-Day says he will not put out his fire, which he considers to be culturally symbolic. He continues to defy city orders, smudging until there's a plan in place for him to relocate somewhere else. At this point, it's not clear when that will happen. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Temperatures are dropping to dangerous lows tonight and tomorrow in Regina, and that is especially concerning for people without reliable housing. Regina has only 2 warming centres, All Nations Hope Network, Awasu, and Carmichael Outreach, but the spaces do not have beds, just chairs to warm up. Carmichael Outreach says it can accommodate about 100 people who need a break from being outside, but it says the demand for the warming centre has shot up. Carmichael attributes that to a rise in houselessness in Regina.
We don't got a place to go and plus you're homeless, thinking about getting really cold, thinking about scared to freeze to death.
We have a lot of people that come in and they're just so tired because they've been up and they've been walking all day. And so if they need to relax and have that bit of a snooze, then, we don't say, no, you can't. We obviously do constant wellness checks, safety checks to make sure that the person is still okay. There could be a lot of other factors, like not just drug use, that could be putting them under. It could be hypothermia.
Garner says there's a lack of shelter beds in Regina. She says the city should prioritize consulting with outreach centres to find solutions. CBC reached out to the city for comment, but did not receive a response. A shortage of judges is creating problems at Court of King's Bench across Saskatchewan. Cases are getting delayed, some dismissed because of delay. Dan Zakreski explains.
It comes down to numbers. There are 34 full-time judges here at Court of King's Bench. There's supposed to be 38. So, fewer judges, but the number of cases coming in hasn't dropped.
We don't control the workload, as you might imagine. As the workload comes in, we are not in a position to say, okay, we've had enough murders here in Saskatchewan. We don't have time to deal with the rest of them.
And the cases coming into the court are on a timer. In 2016, the Supreme Court put a cap of 30 months on criminal cases, resolve them in that period, or potentially see the charges dismissed. The courts take this direction seriously. In 2023, this Agriculture Canada researcher in Swift Current had his fraud and breach of trust charges dismissed because of delay. The Federal Minister of Justice appoints judges at King's Bench. A spokesperson for the minister says he's trying to fill the gaps across the country.
Take some serious shots.
The president of the Saskatoon Criminal Defense Lawyers Association wants the minister to try harder.
And this is just like saying the ER is fine, no one's died in the hallway yet. Well, why should we wait till someone dies in the hallway here? Why should we wait till someone who's innocent doesn't get exonerated? Why should we wait till someone who's guilty doesn't get convicted and the family get to see closure for that aspect of it? We shouldn't wait this long, and it will be an embarrassment to our system every time this happens.
Pfefferly is one of the lawyers who represented the Agriculture Canada researcher with the stayed charges. He said no one wins when a case is dismissed on delay. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
You may have noticed the sky above Regina is quieter than normal. That's because the Regina Police Services Aerial Support Unit is still out of commission. The police plane is used for surveillance and to assist officers on the ground. It was damaged while it was taken in for routine maintenance. Officers had hoped the plane would return to service by the end of summer, but repairs have taken longer because parts needed to be machined at a Cessna factory in the States. Regina police hope to have the plane back in the air by early 2025 at the latest. A bright and brisk day down on the South Saskatchewan River in Saskatoon today. You can see the ice flowing along as the temperature hung in the mid-20s, well below the seasonal normals for this time of year. So, how long are we stuck in this cold snap? Weather specialist Riley Lachuk has your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Final arguments in the trial of Regina-based chiropractor Ruben Mans are now complete. Mans is accused of sexually assaulting 7 female patients. It's now up to the jury to come up with a verdict. Jeffrey Tram has the latest.
We are in the final stretch in the trial of the Regina-based chiropractor Ruben Mans. He is accused of sexually assaulting 7 women while under his care. On Thursday, we heard from the defense and the Crown as they made their final arguments to the jury. The defense doubled down on claims that Mans did not touch any of the witnesses' breasts. His lawyers say Mans was a family man who loved his job and would never do anything to jeopardize his career and family. They also called the 7 witnesses unreliable, saying their accounts of what happened were influenced by the police officer who was leading the case. However, the Crown disagreed and argued that Mans was a respected member of society who violated the trust of 7 women. The Crown lawyer called the witnesses brave to be able to share their testimonies. Crown lawyers also asked the jury if they wanted to live in a world where sex assaults go without any consequences. Mans' fate is now up to the jury. 1 jury member will be randomly selected to be removed, leaving 12 jurors to make the final decision. Jeffrey Tram, CBC News, Regina.
Canada Post has been temporarily laying off striking employees during the nearly 2-week-long walkout. The union calls the move a scare tactic and says it's looking into it. The Crown Corporation has confirmed the layoffs. Canada Post says with the collective agreement no longer in effect, the workers' conditions of employment have changed. All this while millions of parcels are piling up. It's not looking good for small businesses in rural Saskatchewan who say they consider the mail to be an essential service. Ashwarya Duda reports.
Dan Driediger prints and ships maps from his home 5 hours north of Saskatoon. Before the strike, he would drive 80 kilometers to La Ronge to mail his product. He says the postal strike is killing his business.
I'm in trouble. I can hang on for a while, but I don't know what the future holds. I'm really hoping that this strike ends soon, but and I was really hoping for a good Christmas season, but with this strike on, I'm not sure.
Driediger prints and sells thousands of nautical maps, charts, and guidebooks across the world every year. He says he's lost 70% of his business since the postal strike began on November 15th, and he worries the other 30% might cancel their orders. Driediger says generally it costs about $3 to ship a package via Canada Post, but a courier service like Purelator charges $70 to send the same package. That's why, he says, Canada Post is an essential service for rural business owners.
It makes my business viable. And without it, I can't run this business. My business doesn't have an income. I don't have an income. We all have our payments that we have to make.
He's not the only one worried. This gift shop sells goods from artists who live in rural and remote areas.
We get a lot of shipments from the States as well as all across Canada. Our shipments are all late. In fact, a lot of them are lost in transit.
As for Driediger, he's got about $2,000 worth of orders waiting to be shipped.
I would force the Canada Post workers back to work. As much as I want to be on the side of Canada Post workers, I can't be on their side because my income, my business, my passion is on the line because of this strike.
The government maintains it has no plans to step in and force binding arbitration. Ashwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Year-end clearance is on now.
Well, here's a live look at Saskatoon. That is the Broadway Bridge. Current temperature -25 with the wind chill feeling more like -36, which has the city under an extreme cold warning. Riley Lachuk is in to tell us more.
Well, Sam, settle in for a cold night really across south and central Saskatchewan. The north not as cold, but certainly you're going to feel it as we get through the overnight hours tonight. We do have an extreme cold warning in place, really for the Highway 16 corridor, Yorkton, Kenora, Wynyard through Saskatoon, North Battleford. This is where we're expecting some of the coldest air overnight tonight, some of the clearest skies through the overnight period. Lows tonight at around -30 or lower through the overnight period, and a little bit of wind mixing in with that, bringing those wind chill values near -40. I thought this was a good time to talk about the freeze times and what exactly those numbers kind of mean. So for Saskatoon, for example, we're looking at a wind chill first thing in the morning tomorrow through the overnight period of -40. That means exposed skin freezing in 10 minutes or less through the overnight period. Not much better in Regina, still a cold night ahead, but not quite meeting that warning criteria. The wind chill overnight getting to -38. At least that's what's forecast through the overnight period tonight, meaning skin freezing in that 10 to 20 minute range when you get close to that -40 value. So just putting it in perspective, that we're looking at a very winter-like overnight period and early morning ahead as we head into Friday. Under the influence of a weak area of high pressure, that's allowed our skies to clear. Another little dusting of snow for many of us through the overnight hours into the morning this morning. A little bit of cloud still hanging around into that southwestern corner of the province, but yep, much brighter day today. It was nice to see the sun through parts of the prairie provinces as we've gotten through the afternoon hours for sure. So we're looking at skies remaining clear through the overnight period tonight. We're looking at another sunny and clear start to the morning. Again, bitter cold through the morning hours tomorrow. Where we will see some warmer temperatures is where we have some of this cloud cover acting as a bit of a blanket in southwestern Saskatchewan. I know not as cold as other parts of south and central, but we will still feel the chill in that southwestern corner as well. As we head into Saturday, weak disturbance moves through. This brings us a good chance of some flurries. I have Saskatoon and Regina with a slight chance of flurries heading through Saturday, but by and large, expect some scattered flurries through the day on Saturday as we head into the day on Sunday. So you can see this deep trough in the jet stream here. This is allowing all this cold Arctic air to flow into the prairie provinces, settling in for the weekend. We don't start to see a little bit of a change in pattern until we get into Tuesday, Wednesday next week. This is we can expect our next best chance for a little bit of precipitation as we head into mid part of next week. So overnight into the morning hours, looking at temperatures staying around -30 for south and central, even into the -20s by the afternoon hours tomorrow, and another cold overnight period ahead heading Saturday into Sunday. So for Regina, looking at a high of -22 tomorrow, -16 with slim chance of some flurries over the weekend. We warm up to more seasonal, above seasonal values as we head into next week. Saskatoon, Sam, -23 first thing in the morning tomorrow. And we're looking at cloudier conditions as we head into next week again.
Australia's Senate has passed a strict new law banning children under 16 from using social media. This law is the first of its kind anywhere in the world, but it wouldn't take effect for at least 12 months. The ban could see social media companies like TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, and X fined up to $50 million if they don't comply. Australia's Prime Minister says the legislation is needed to protect young people. Critics are questioning how it will be enforced. Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is officially 100 years old. The Radio City Rockettes added a kick to the festivities, and towering over the proceedings, Tom the Turkey, the parade's oldest float. In all, there were 22 floats, 11 marching bands, and 32 giant balloons and inflatables, and of course, Santa. We're back after the break. Welcome back. The World Health Organization is calling for better monitoring to help reduce the spread of the H5N1 bird flu.
What we really need globally, in the US and abroad, is much stronger surveillance in animals. We need much stronger efforts in terms of reducing the risk of infection between animals, to new species, and to humans.
The U.S. has reported 55 human cases of H5N1 this year. Most of them involve farm workers who came into contact with infected poultry or cows. The strain was recently found in a pig on a backyard farm in Oregon. Last month, BC reported what's thought to be the first human case of H5N1 identified in Canada. Health officials don't know how the teen, who was in critical condition as recently as yesterday, became infected.
Well, as I mentioned, prepare for a very cold night tonight for South and Central, and a cold start to the morning tomorrow. Your overnight temperature is looking like this: -31 in Regina, up Highway 11, getting down as cold as -33 in Saskatoon. Factoring in a bit of wind, looking at it feeling closer to -40 with those freeze times on exposed skin in under 10 minutes for some of us overnight. La Ronge -23, Buffalo Narrows, maybe a couple of flurries. The northern part of the province is where we see a brighter day tomorrow. Mix of sun and clouds, and not as cold, but still pretty chilly for this time of the year for northern parts of the province. Into the south, we're looking at a cold start to the morning, where we do see temperatures a little bit warmer is in that southwestern corner of the province. But as we get into the afternoon hours, barely getting out of the -20s, Sam. So yeah, tonight's a good night to pull out that extra blanket and certainly plug in the car through the overnight hours tonight.
Thanks, Riley. And before we go, last night, the Washington Capitals goalie had his worst nightmare come true.
Wall lost it, got it back, but the pass deflected down. Lindgren. Oh, he put it in his own net!
Lindgren calls it the biggest mistake he's ever made. The misfire also counted as Braden Point's hat-trick clinching third goal of the game, because he was the last player on the Lightning to touch the puck. Despite that moment of frustration for the Capitals, Washington was still able to come back and score 2 more to defeat Tampa Bay. Final score 5-4. It's not as cute when it's an adult that does it. That's it for us tonight. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night and stay warm.